So the next session is basically by Fredrik Moeschlin from Findwise, and it's a very interesting topic and a very pragmatic and a practical one. It's about how to make the most of your business by enriching, exploring, and empowering. Yeah.
Thank you, and great to be here with you in this excellent conference. And this is something that's quite relevant right now. Our debts in Sweden for the households, they approach 4 trillion Swedish crowns. That's 400 billion euros approximately. And this is largely due to the housing market, which you may be aware of, has seen a sharp increase in prices the last couple of decades. And I don't know how many in here currently has a household loan. Hands up. That's the majority. Okay, so this is your money. And but last year you have heard there was a slump in the market. Prices were going down. And now everyone is asking, what is happening? What is going on? And the thing is, we get conflicting reports. Some say prices are steadily going down. And this is based on Svensk Mäklarstatistik, one source of information. Others say prices are now going up. The funny thing is that these are 2 reports for the January statistics on the very same date, on the very same data. So it's obvious from this that we need a better understanding of this data. And this is something we often see in our clients. They need a better understanding of the data. And how do we do that? How do we help them? We typically use our approach, enriching the data, bringing more value, exploring it so that it's visually appealing to see it, find hypotheses, and empower the users, to actually work with the data, draw their own conclusions. And this is what we'll now apply on the Swedish housing market. But before doing that, I'll just briefly outline what it's all about, this process, before we go deep into the tech stuff, right? So it's not about using Power BI. It's a great tool for business intelligence. It has a hype increasing. But still, this is not the optimal way of us consuming graphics. If you look at it in a different perspective, the same computer could be used for these kind of things. Much more fun, right? And when you look in the corners, you see statistics. So statistics is in there, but you utilize much more of the capabilities of the computer. And talking art, we heard it in the keynote. This is a way, Assassin's Creed, how to visualize your development as a player, but it could also be a role in a company or the development of the company. I don't know if you do these kind of graphs. A map could look like this. And again, another great tool, ClickSense. It's famous for its graphical way, its way of combining data. But sort of you're blinded by all the white colors, and the other colors and the graphics could easily have been done in Excel 20 years ago. But this is how we typically search information. In this case, Googling Data Innovation Summit. We don't need to do very much. Google instantly knows what we want. And this is the interface we prefer on the internet. You also have it in this smart way with Google. You can just write a question, and Google delivers you a number of search results down here, but also an answer. And Facebook was founded. We don't know when it's going down yet, but we'll see. And Facebook has this smart search function as well, up to the left. You can just search, tip Findwise, and you find an expert in information management and search-driven solutions. LinkedIn, the same approach, and you can find me there. I'm heading our analytics department, driving what we're doing here. Other interesting ways is what Pinterest do. You start writing, and they give you suggestions, and they wrap it up, and you instantly see nice pictures. So back at Tableau, another great BI tool, business intelligence. Where is your search box? Where do you start writing? How do you start interact? As a data scientist, you probably prefer a dark background. You type everything you do, right? And we do this as well, and it's great. And we finally get to utilize a bit of the processing power when it comes to graphics, the GPU. We do it for deep learning, not so much for graphics, but we're still using it, right? But we took the question to us, how do you combine nice visualization with an interactive natural language to generate insights in a much more intuitive way? We took it to our labs, and this is where we bring in customer data, customer questions to drive business development, but we also try to drive development in another way, and this is typically the case here. How can you have a much more intuitive way of analyzing your data? And this is what I'll now demonstrate for you. And just to mention, this is not a PowerPoint if you thought so. This is actually a prototype that we built to be able to demonstrate this concept. It is possible to click slides in it, but you, of course, you can write and utilize this interface. So what we typically start with, the housing market. You need data, right? Fortunately, there's a lot of data out there, sold objects from the brokers, from other sources. We have it all. And we typically just start by doing some very simple analysis. What data do we have? And this is the power of utilizing a search interface, right? You get suggestions. You want to see the ones sold 2017 or the ones built? Hard to tell. Probably sold 110,000. Or we could just switch it towards 18. And the nice thing is you work with filters, you see them clearly so you can work with them. So what I'm demonstrating now is a prototype of how we could do this. We're not selling solutions here, we are a consultancy. The next step would be to just basically have a look at the data. Give me the objects, show them to me. Okay, here they are. These are the ones for 2018. It's nice, I can now start looking around here. I see apartments, I see a lot of apartments actually. Some villas, some chain houses, and you see the trend. This is one way of looking at it. The power comes when you start actually utilizing the data behind. I colorize them simply what kind of object. It doesn't bring you that much value. So what we typically do here is to bring some sort of sense out of the data, arrange them. And this is now, how many were there? 20,000 objects being arranged. And of course, this is something we need to use the graphical processor to be able to do, right? But this gives you some sort of understanding. There's a lot of apartments sold today, a lot of villas, chain houses, not so many. And rough overview. A map view, and if we now clear the filters, you have a view of, I think this is half a million sold objects. The colors remain the same. The map view gives you another understanding, a deeper layer. And of course, this is something rendered on my graphics processor. It's fairly easy to work with. Still, just a map like this doesn't bring you that much. And this is when we start bringing in external data. OpenStreetMap is a great tool. You can get all the things you want as objects. And these are edited by volunteers, just like Wikipedia on OpenStreetMap. And you can download and utilize that data. And this is not about pixels. Everything is actually now objects working in my computer, graphical computer, so to speak. And of course, if you want to zoom in somewhere, you have the map data now. We could go to, for instance, Södermalm, a very popular area in Stockholm. And we see it's very hot here, it's very red, and that's because of all the apartments, right? And when doing the analysis, we can work around here, and this is about exploring and being able to understand what do we see. We see nice features like this one. Anyone knows what this is? Yeah, this is a very famous arc in Stockholm. So we would maybe bring in the buildings from OpenStreetMap. And what you now see is you have the ability to work with different layers to give you deeper understanding in the data. And the funny thing is you might want to know, okay, this is quite some objects sold here. What is the average price for that building? Well, that is just about grouping the data according to different objects. So we can do that, of course. In this case, group it per building, and we see different prices. In this case, the average price per square meter. And what you see here is there are different prices in this area, naturally. Quite high prices for some objects. And there's one really peeking out here. Maybe someone lives here, I don't know. Hands up then. This is actually something I had to look deeper into, and I found out, well, maybe this is because this is a fairly new building, possibly. What if we just switch the colors now to the year the house was built? And we see it's still extremely orange. Why is that? Because it's an entirely new building. And the problem is now, how do we combine? We want to see the price of the buildings, and we also want to see when they were built in this way. How do you do? Yeah, we need another dimension, right? And I didn't mention this, but the things we are rendering now, they are actually having another dimension. We have the possibility to work in 3D as well. And now we could just say, okay, we want the height of the building to represent the price. And this is just one way of adding new layers of information working in that exploratory way. And we now see that this particular building is really popping out here. But we also see other buildings which are quite low, but they are a little bit more orange. This is of course because buildings in Södermalm and Stockholm, some of them are really old, like previous centuries, and they're popular. They have high prices. The other ones here, built in the 70s, 80s, they are not that expensive to buy. And we could go to other areas. Nacka, for instance, in Stockholm. We could bring in the buildings here as well. And what I'm doing now, all the data is loaded from different databases, different data containers into the graphics processor. And I have still the possibility to just turn off things and see, okay, these are only the buildings. And it's not impossible to render these many objects. That's fairly easy to do on a computer today. And looking back here, we could go to certain areas of interest. I knew one particular one here. And quite some solar objects. I do the same now, just bringing in the prices per building. And you see, okay, these are fairly blue, while the other ones here are a little bit more orange. How can that be? Well, we need some more understanding. We need to understand, is it close to water, perhaps? And now we see the waterways around here, also from OpenStreetMap. And this is a way of just generating and working with hypotheses. You say, okay, this is interesting. Can I go deeper here? And of course, the next step, you might want to know, the price, in this case per square meter, over the distance to water, to coast. I think coast is even better. And now we just plot all the objects. That's also nothing hard to do. And the thing is, when you don't plot just an average, you work with the data. You see clouds popping up. I don't know if you see this, but there is a trend here. On the x-axis, you see the distance to the coastline. On the y-axis, the average price. No, not the average, the actual price per square meter. And every dot is one sold object. You see clouds here. Most of the data, most of our housings in Sweden are close to water, close to the coast. It's easy, right, to tell with Stockholm, Gothenburg, Malmö. But we also have other clouds here, like this one, for instance. What is that? Probably that is a city which is a little bit further away from the water. We could also, which everyone typically wants to know, the price, and in this case the price per square meter. It's a better normalized price over time. And just by visualizing the data, not averaging it, not doing statistics on it, you can see a lot of trends. And in this case, you see clearly that around New Year's, we don't go out buying or selling houses or apartments. It's the same over the summer. In Sweden, we have a long, great summertime, right? At least vacation. And we also have some other interesting phenomena. You might notice horizontal lines at 50,000 as well as 100,000. Why is that? I don't know. Perhaps brokers tend to set fixed price on the objects calculated from price per square meter, because it's good for the bonus if they reach 100,000 or above. I don't know. We also see other interesting patterns, some sharp lines, very frequent. That is actually the weekly trend. Few objects are sold on the weekends. So we get a lot of... you probably can see Easter. Yeah, I think so. That's the black ribbons down here. So this is just one way of visualizing it. Of course, you want to know what is the average. And I think one benefit of working this way is that you see that the distribution here is not a normal distribution of the data. It is actually kind of skewed towards higher prices. And you also see that the objects with higher prices have really taken off since 2013. And that's an interesting trend. And now we can actually see the slump last year here. And it's also very obvious up here. So maybe the median would be even better to work with, but everyone today works with the average, so we'll use it. Any idea why prices were going down last year? No clue? New regulations for repayment of loans, perhaps? And the thing is, once you have external data, you might want to know, is this true, is this not true? And probably in this case, people are influenced by the media. They reported a lot about this. So we work a lot with the news in a number of different projects, and it's fairly easy to just add this. So in this case, we could take the word amorteringskrav in Sweden and get just the monthly statistics on the number of articles containing that word. And what we see is that it was quite hot by the end of 2014. It was the first regulation was introduced, 2016 I think it was active. And then November 2017 was really the peak. Possibly, that's an explanation, I don't know. What is interesting is to look at the data we saw in the beginning, these reports. What data are they based on? So I'll add one of them, the Value Guard Index, HOX. And I also add the apartments right now, so I'll put a filter for that one. And we see now instantly, okay, they do something with the data. We don't know exactly what. They try to neutralize the downturns over summer, over New Year's, somehow. And we also have data from the other source. These are all public sources. Mäklarstatistik. And we could, of course, zoom a bit to make it easier to see. And what you see is that, okay, they are both trying somehow to neutralize the seasonal trends, but at the same time, the blue one seems to be a lag of the purple one here. And this is actually the case. If you look deeper into what they're presenting, they use the 3-month rolling average, comparing it with another 3-month rolling average, and saying, this is the trend for last month. I don't know if that's correct or not, but this clearly shows you why they can arrive at different conclusions, different trends. And this is, of course, something we could dig even deeper into, but now my time is slowly running out. But to conclude, what we have seen now is really that you can use a lot of data to enrich your original data. In this case, we used OpenStreetMap to get the map data. We used news data to get an understanding of the media. And it also shows the possibilities you have to visually explore your data and to work with it in different ways, analyzing hypotheses. But last, empowerment, that is really when everyone has this analytical power to work with the data and draw their own conclusions. And I think we really stand before a paradigm shift here. The way we're used to clicking around to analyze data, getting a training, how to work with it, is being replaced more and more by intuitive, natural language approaches. And I think we all want to create insights in a very intuitive way, just like with Google, And we all want that our insights are visually appealing so that we can communicate them. And this approach really brings another way of doing that. And anyone could now utilize this power to extract information from the noise we have around us and get a deeper understanding of the data we are confronted with. And this in turn allows you to draw new conclusions, to act according to those conclusions, and not the least helps you to communicate clearly. And to me, this housing market with this quite huge debt that we have in Sweden is really one way I wanted to get deeper into using this kind of approach. And now my question is to you guys, what would you like to analyze in this sort of way? I leave you with that question, and thank you very much for having me.